Let's move on to 30. Fidelity says by age 30, you should have 1 times your annual salary saved up. So for example, if you make $50,000, they say you should have $50,000 saved up by the time you reach 30. JP Morgan, they say by age 30, if you make $50,000, they say you should have $20,000 saved up. And at $150,000 of household income, you should have $120,000 saved up. So not quite 1 times your salary. This is, Grant, where we're starting to see some different numbers. The Fidelity is a little different than JP Morgan, but it's starting to kind of get close to that 1 times your salary mark.
And I think this is going to be surprising to a lot of people. At 30, 1x salary. And the question is too, is if you get a job promotion, you get a sudden big pay increase, right? In our early 30s, we might be advancing in our career. And so the ability, if you start making 100-some thousand, to have that saved up might not be there. So I wouldn't stress necessarily about those particular numbers, other than trying to really establish good, healthy savings habits. Taking advantage of your company match right now when you're in your 30s is going to be key.
And I should have said this at the beginning of the episode. These numbers are based on the assumption that your lifestyle right now, you're going to have that same lifestyle in retirement. So that's kind of the goal. That's where they get these numbers, is if you save this amount, that hopefully you'd have enough saved up that once you reach 65 and retire, you can kind of maintain that same quality of life.
Yeah, and there's different factors too around when you collect Social Security and some things like that. But generally the studies, I think, would fit most people's lives. Most people generally want to retire around in their mid-60s. That gets you to Medicare age for health insurance. And so it's a good rule of thumb to aim for that age for retirement for most people.
Perfect. Let's go on to 35. At 35, Fidelity said you should have 2 times your salary saved up. So again, if you make $50,000 a year as a household, they say you should have $100,000 saved up by the age 35. JP Morgan, however, at 35, if you make $50,000, they say you should have $40,000 saved, almost 1 times your salary. And at $150,000 of household income, you should have $240,000 so that's 1.5 times your salary, about that mark. And again, this is where the numbers are starting to kind of drift apart here. So some very different approaches, but I think if you can kind of see like where the ballpark of where you're in.
It's a good ballpark. And the other thing around our mid-30s that starts to creep in is if we have children, now on top of saving for retirement, we have to consider saving for education. Most likely in our mid-30s, we're now homeowners, so we have good old homeowner maintenance and those related costs. So we have a lot of things tugging at our wallet. And again, the discipline to start saving young so that it pays dividends in the future is going to be key. I think that the more aggressive numbers are a good like high bar to shoot for. And the conservative, a little bit lower numbers, I think are a little bit more average for our nation. It's going to depend too, do you have working spouses, how many children, things like that. So everybody's family is going to be different. I want to stress that. These are good rules of thumb, but because everyone's lives are so different, don't necessarily feel like you're falling behind if you don't have those particular numbers at this point in life.
Yeah, I think this decade is probably the most difficult decade to save because so many things you mentioned. You're a lot of people saving for a house. They're trying to figure out their career. They're maybe not quite at those peak earning years yet. Yeah. You might have kids. You're also, a lot of people at this age are still paying off student loans. Mm-hmm. So there's just so much going on. But from some of the numbers that we've seen in so many studies and seeing the growth of that money, it's really important if you do have that extra money saved up to put that money into retirement early, because that can have a lot of time to grow. I
think the big thing is making sure you are at the very least contributing to a work retirement plan that has a company match. Again, aim for that 15%, because then you should get the full company match in addition to your savings amount. And that's really going to help jumpstart your retirement for later in life.